mount is kind of like the armbar from guard in that you learn it on your first couple of days of jiu-jitsu. It comes in pretty early, comes in pretty quick. It's a basic technique. It's very simplistic, so it makes it really easy to teach to a new student because the angles and the movements that you're doing are fairly elementary. But as you get deeper into techniques, there's a lot to an armbar that can make it. There's a lot to a high-level armbar, I should say. There's a lot of little detailed tweaks that can make the armbar really effective. Or if you don't do those tweaks, you don't use those details, you can get really frustrated because your armbar is not going to work as effectively. So when we looked at the armbar from guard, we talked about getting our hips nice and high, choking up on the arm. We talked about cutting angles. We talked about controlling our opponent's head and where our opponent goes to make the armbar successful. Now, when we flip that over and do that mount, it's a lot of the same things, but there's a habit that people have of kind of compartmentalizing the two different arm bars. Even though they're fairly similar, you end up in the same spot cranking the arm. You start thinking of them as two different techniques. If we look at the arm bar from mount, it's just a reoriented guard. We can start kind of analyzing why our arm bar is working and why it might not be working. So a lot of people get frustrated with the arm bar from mount. So if you lay down for me, please, Daryl. So the mount position is a lot like a guard, except that I'm flipped over now. So now I'm on top of my opponent instead of underneath. But my legs are still around Daryl's hips. I'm still straddling his body. I'm still keeping my legs clamped in nice and tight. My orientation physically is relatively the same. We're just boop, flipped over. So now I have to get all the same things to happen for the armbar from mount to be effective for me. I have to get his elbow inside. So right now, if I start trying to choke up into a high mount, Daryl's elbow is outside of my hip. Okay, this plane here, he's pretty safe. His elbow is not gonna. I'm not gonna be able to get him into any trouble. If I try to hop into an armbar from here, he's gonna be able to get out of it fairly easily. So I have to get this elbow dug inside. I have to get his elbow inside of my hip. Okay, that's a big part of this armbar. So a big part of your armbar battle from the top is getting the elbow in the right place. And a lot of students, especially new students, they don't realize how important that positioning is. They try to force the armbar. So you see them kind of jumping over the arm in a lot of cases because the elbow is just not where it needs to be. My angle is also important, and controlling Daryl's head is also important. So whenever I get this armbar, we're just going to do a really basic setup. There's a lot of different ways we get this going. We'll look at it later. But my basic setup for an armbar is I'm just going to crawl into high guard here. Getting up, high mount, getting up here nice and tight. So it's very similar to a high guard, right? My legs are up nice and high on his shoulders. I'm not so much on his hips anymore. His elbows are now stuck inside because I'm using my legs to close the space and clamp him up here. He's a lot more vulnerable. I have a lot more control over his upper body here. His bridge is not that big of a deal now because I'm nice and high. If he tries to bridge, I'm not really on his hips, so I don't kind of get that bucking bull motion as much as I would if I was super low. So now when I'm controlling this position, if I want the armbar now, I start making my angle, right? Because just like in guard, when I was straight on with Daryl, it's very hard to get my leg where I need it to be. I need to cut 90 degrees. So when I do that from mount, I like to come through and control both arms. Just keep both arms nice and controlled. I'm going to extend this leg. I'm going to rotate my body 90 degrees this way. Okay, so when I do that, notice it's just like I did from guard, where I was swinging my leg up, trying to kick Daryl in the back of the head. The same thing, just from mount. So here, I extend this leg and rotate into S-mount. Nice, strong 90-degree angle. I'm facing this direction now. My chest is. My knees nice and high in his shoulder, keeping this clamped up. So my knee's clamped against his arm again. Keep that elbow where I need it to be. If I let this knee start sliding down here, he can start getting that elbow out. I want to keep this nice and inside. Now in this position, since I'm on top of Daryl, I have a lot more weight on him, which is nice. I get to drive a lot of pressure in. I mean, it's nice for me. It's not very nice for Daryl. So I'm here. Got both arms. Keeping everything squeezed nice and tight, just like I would in guard. Hug the arm, so I'm isolating just one arm now. Now when I go to attack this from mount, it's important that I keep my opponent's head controlled. So from guard, I was using a stiff arm. Now on top, I'm going to use my leg. So I'm going to lean towards his legs, keep my weight on him, sit my leg over his head, and then sit back into the armbar. If I do it the opposite way, if I'm here, I got control, do my rotate. If I sit back and then try to put my leg over top, since I'm not controlling where Daryl's head's going, he's going to crowd me again. He's going to drive in. I'm going to miss it and end up back in guard. So my leg is acting as my stiff arm in this case. So boom, get nice and high. Control both arms just because I can. Straighten my leg. Rotate. Curl my heel in. Driving my knee in. Really clamping nice and tight. Get nice strong angle. Leg over top. Coming back. Then I can just hug this arm and position it before I finish. Now, same thing. Pinky on the sternum, elbow up. I'm pinching my knees. Head on the mat for a nice strong bridge. I'm not going to break Daryl's arm here, but I can get a nice strong bridge in here and snap that pretty quick. So it's the same idea as the armbar from guard, right? I'm just doing it flipped over. And like I said, when we start looking at the armbar, it seems pretty, sounds pretty simple and almost so silly that it's basic. But when we start looking at more techniques, you'll see how it can let us understand why we're doing certain things in certain positions and seeing more of the potential in certain positions.